Good evening, everyone. It's time for the Coast to Coast podcast here on InsideCarolina.com. I'm merely your host. Sorry, I've been watching too much Peaky Blinders lately. Um, it's vacation, so you binge things. What's up, y'all? You're tuned into InsideCarolina.com's Coast to Coast podcast here on Inside Carolina. Uh, been working on my Tommy Shelby a little bit there, but I know I at least got a side eye from Sherelle. I think Sean's too buried in his notes to notice what I was doing. But we are glad that you, the listener, the viewer, are with us tonight on this episode, one of many from InsideCarolina.com's network of podcasts. I am just your host, Joey Powell, but with me are the two guys you are here to see, Sherelle McMillan, Sean Moran. Guys, I don't have time for pleasantries. It was funny because I did have time for my Peaky Blinders reference, but I don't have time for pleasantries because this is the most packed agenda that we have had since I've been hosting this show. Is that fair to say?
Been a year now. Congratulations again. It's been
Is
like,
it?
yeah, it's been a year.
Awesome. Hey,
I
I've
think our
been here a year and you guys haven't gotten rid of me. That's
I
that's
think
a
our first Angelo Brizzi conversation was like last June. So
our first of our 5-part series of Angelo Brizzi discussions. Oh man, that's actually really that's a good throwback. I like that. I appreciate you. Sherelle and Sean are joining us. We're going to discuss many things. Like I said, this really is a packed agenda for a show, so I'm going to try to keep the hubbub to a minimum. Do want to make sure we get some business out of the way. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Get all of this stuff. If you're watching us, thank you. If you're listening to us, make sure you're subscribing so this drops immediately into your Apple Music or Apple Podcasts. I'm sorry, Spotify, wherever you're getting your podcast from. Go ahead and subscribe. Then take it a step further. We would really appreciate it. Hey, if you think that these past year of me hosting these has been garbage, let us know. But if you think they've been great, give us a review. Like, let us know. That actually helps Inside Carolina. It helps our content, and we would appreciate you guys doing that for us. And in payment for that, we will give you a great show. Starting out, I want to thank Johnny T-Shirt for supporting this because Johnny T-Shirt has just as much goods as we have goods for you today. First things first, Isaac Trout is in Chapel Hill. He is on his official visit right before we hit. And Sherelle, I think the dead period is what, Monday? Or I'm sorry, July 1st?
yeah, there's some leeway with that. So certain seniors can keep visiting after July 1st for official visits. I should have had the rule. I'm not well prepared. But
I didn't prep you. This is on the host. I will own this. Go ahead.
but there are some official visits that can happen after July 1st. However, Trout will be leaving on Tuesday, so he's going to take up most of the 48 hours that are allotted for an official visit. This is his final scheduled official visit because again, these are junior year official visits. So if he's so inclined, after August 1st, he can take 5 more. He's already taken trips to Michigan State, to Nebraska, and to UVA, and then he's taken an unofficial trip to Creighton. Both of Creighton and Nebraska, obviously, are the in-state schools, and then Michigan State, UVA, and Carolina. And I think he just kind of wants to see UNC. Never been out there before, never seen the campus, hasn't met any of the coaches in person. So all that stuff, building a rapport, is what UNC is trying to do this weekend. And then just let him know that he's wanted and kind of what they envisioned for him in Hubert Davis's system.
All right, Sean, Isaac Trout swimming around in Chapel Hill as we record this. How do you feel like his game's going to match up with what he would be coming in with the roster? Because I'll be honest, his film, he looks good. He's smooth, really athletic for what we've seen, and the guy plays probably more above the rim than you would expect someone of his size and of his game. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, he's definitely an interesting player. And I think going back to when we first talked about him on the podcast, probably January or February, it's probably a far-fetched idea that he would visit Carolina, just given some of the other interests. So the fact that he is on campus right now just shows that they've been able to prioritize him, since the new coaching staff came on board. So with him, I think he's a I'd say a kind of a 4 or 5 where he is a true stretch four, but he's a guy that could also isn't afraid to play in the post. So I think he has a good mix of inside outside type of game. But in high school, you can also see him bringing the ball up the court every now and then. He'll never be kind of a natural wing just given his size, but he's got a smooth shot, good mechanics. As you alluded to, he's definitely a little more athletic than he looks, where he can, if he gets a step on you with a pump fake, it takes one 1-2 dribbles and he's above the rim. So he's a very versatile player, and I think he would, once again, we're all anxious to see how, quote unquote, kind of the new Carolina looks from an offensive end, but he's definitely a guy that could easily stretch the floor, but at the same time isn't a guy that's just going to hang out on the perimeter and doesn't want to bang down low, because he can certainly flash in the mid post for a little, short shot, post up smaller defenders. So he's a very interesting player, and I think players like those are ones that we'll see Hubert Davis and the staff targeting time and time again over the next few years.
And Sherelle, if memory serves me, he averages in the high 30s from beyond the arc. Would that qualify him?
For the hybrid role?
No, would that qualify him for the what is the term that we've been throwing around for all these offers that Hubert Davis has been throwing out? Shooter? Would that
Oh,
qualify him as a
shoot.
shooter?
Yeah. I would think so.
Man,
You
I
know,
gotta
fake.
prep you guys better for these shows. I'm
But no,
standing here on an island, butt naked, holding my Johnson.
But no, that's what Hubert Davis wants.
Shooters.
Guys, we talked about it, who can face, they can space, which is another word for shooting, and they can post. And just from watching what we've seen of him, I mean, he can do all those things. Like, he seems to be the perfect, like, true, modern day four, because he can do all those things, can put the ball on the floor and drive some, as Sean said. I mean, he has all those skills. So very anxious to see him at the Under Armour event in a couple of weeks, just against national competition. His high school didn't play in either of the live periods. They've been kind of doing camps. So it'll be his first real competition in a couple months since the spring. So really just anxious to see him and what he looks like.
Sean, want to skip ahead. Speaking of live, or at least watching live performances, you did some scouting of Jalen Washington this week. What did you see new from him that you hadn't seen before? And I know you've done some really good write-ups on Inside Carolina's recruiting board and in some past dossiers in the past dossiers for the site. What did you see when you saw his games this weekend that maybe you did not know he had, as the kids say, in his bag?
Well, one, I think it was just good to watch a full game where you get to see the makes, the misses, but how he's moving up the court. How he's defending. And his high school team played 4 games, so 2 games on Saturday. It was talked about on the Carolina board, where all 4, or the whole Carolina coaching staff, was at his early game on Saturday, and then he had 2 more on Sunday. So was able to watch that first game where the whole coaching staff was involved, as well as his first game today. Unfortunately, his team went 0-4, but I think he played pretty well in the first game. Went for 24 points, and he did it kind of a variety of ways. I think he had 2 threes. I think it was around 10 of 12 from the free throw line. He had a few shots up close, and I think what everybody's familiar with and what we had talked about before was more of his face-up game. One guy Carolina offered last year was Jabari Smith, and he kind of resembles him a little bit, just in terms of shooting and where they like to catch the ball. So he's very comfortable just catching it from 15 to 18 feet and kind of getting into his pivot, using a jab step to get space and launching. And if he's inside the arc, he had 1 air ball, but besides that, he was pretty much right on target. And then I mentioned the 2 threes where he was running down the court and basically just pulled up from 3 off the catch, at the top of the key, and it looked fairly smooth. Not the quickest shot release, but a pretty good one for his size. And then defensively, he has the 7-foot plus wingspan. So if somebody tries to post him up, all he really has to do is put his arm straight up, and he's gonna make it difficult for the opponent. And there are a few times in pick and roll situations where he was trying to recover to a guard or a wing, and it was pretty easy for him to make up ground with his length in terms of blocking shots. So overall, he played pretty well in terms of what we were able to watch. I think that defensively, Carolina is recruiting him as a 4. I kind of see him more as a 5 that could play some 4 in a 2 big offense, but I think really defensively he's going to slot in at a 5 versatility wise, because there's still I'd say just from a lateral quickness perspective, as well as vertical explosion, are kind of 2 things that are he can work on going forward. But At the same time, going back to our Seth Trimble conversation and how athletic and explosive he is, and how that could make him more attractive to the next level, I think some of the deficiencies in Washington's game are ones that could keep him around in college for more than a year.
You know, I used the word recover in kind of how he was able to move a few minutes ago, but I also want to talk about something that really affected his recruitment, and that was his ACL injury. Did you feel like anything that you saw, did he show any lingering effects or anything that may be sticking around, or does it look like he's actually gotten through that physically? And as we know, recovering from major knee reconstruction can also give guys a little bit of mental hesitation. Did you feel like he is fully recovered from that?
I mean, I thought he looked, he looked, you couldn't really tell if he was favoring, he was still wearing a knee brace, but he was grabbing defensive rebounds, or if his teammates did, he was getting up and down the court very quickly in terms of just straight line running. So, he was looking fine in terms of picking up speed pretty quickly. And I think in terms of what I just mentioned as kind of some of the weaknesses, I think those will just, those take time, especially for basketball players and ACLs. I feel it always takes almost a year after they've been playing for them to truly, we've seen that with Dexter Strickland and others to truly feel comfortable. So I think that will continue to come throughout his high school senior year. And once again, there was times where even just switching, he was moving pretty well. And once again, the length kind of helps him maybe counterbalance if he's not able to slide his feet quick enough on some. But once again, I think those two areas will continue to improve throughout the high school season. But it didn't look like he was favoring one or the other. And once again, it was 4 games in 2 days, which is a lot, especially coming off of that. But he played pretty good minutes, and while the team was struggling at times, he continued to play well. And the one thing I didn't mention was really his passing ability. I thought he had a very good ability to find, because he was getting double teamed a lot. The teams were playing zone defenses, etc., and he didn't really force the issue a whole lot. And he was able to quickly realize, where is the open man and hit them, right in the chest almost. So they didn't really need to, they had a pretty good pass to go up for the shot. So that was one thing that I don't think came across in a lot of the highlight videos, but I did think his passing ability was something that jumped out this weekend.
That is something too that as we watch how Hubert Davis installs his vision of offense, you got to think that spacing being so important as he's talked to recruits and parents and to the media, that having a big that can continue to pass well, but more importantly, reverse the ball quickly, when it does come inside. If Washington is able to do that and he does end up coming to Carolina, that's going to be a really, really nice, really nice arrow for him to have in his quiver. Sherelle, we have some more information that we did not expect to be discussing this week. But when it was revealed, I guess late Friday, that Dawson Garcia had player from Marquette who was a freshman last year. Tar Heel fans may remember him well from the loss that the Tar Heels suffered at the hands of Marquette and Dawson Garcia in the Smith Center. Sherelle, Dawson Garcia has entered his name into the transfer portal. I think a lot of folks expected it, but since he had been working out for NBA teams, maybe they'd forgotten, and North Carolina had kind of moved on, signing Brady Manick and Justin McCoy. What can you tell us about Dawson Garcia and how it might relate to the North Carolina basketball program?
So we have a note up on the premium board. I'll just say there's mutual interest between the two parties, and we can leave it at that. If you want additional information, sign up for premium, go check that out. I would say it's funny because the second that Steve Wojciechowski got fired at Marquette, it was blood in the water because everyone was like, "Oh, this means that Dawson Garcia might be available." And I mean, it really was a huge deal because he played so well at times. Obviously had the monster game against Carolina. He had some real big games in the Big East, and it just seemed like an ascending player. Again, that kind of modern forward. So to me, it's just funny because I was looking at text messages from like March 25th, and we're talking about Dawson Garcia. So it's funny that it's happening now. And again, this goes back to when we talk about the transfer portal, why you just don't take any guy, again, from my
Right.
favorite school, Stony Brook, in May. because the July 1st deadline was still coming. And you just don't know who's going to decide to return, who's going to decide to go into the NBA, who's going to enter the portal. There could be a perfect player, and Dawson Garcia, pretty much for what Carolina wants to do now under Hubert Davis, is kind of a perfect player. Now, it is a interesting situation because, as you said, they do have kind of two stretch fours already signed, but you know. I want to be delicate because I understand that those guys, I'm not going to say they were promised things, but they want a chance to play. But from a Carolina perspective, it is an absolute no-brainer that you call Dawson Garcia and say, "Hey, we're interested. We think you can help us," because he's a talented player in North Carolina, as Hubert Davis has said since the day he got the job. Needs more talented players. So I don't get the line of thought that it might hurt someone's feelings or whatever. These guys are competitors. Go compete. In October, go compete and win the job if you want it. That it's simple as that. So I got aside from there. So anyway, but
No,
yeah, there's
hang on, stay there, stay because I think there's been in the note that you posted on the Inside Carolina Premium Message Board, which, as Sherelle said, subscribe. If you're not subscribing, you're not getting the goodness like this. But subscribe. There's been some discussion there about, you know, is Dawson Garcia a take, and that's absolutely absurd. And I want to echo your point, but I will be the heavy-handed one. Say it's absurd to think that a player with his skill set and his caliber would not be a take for North Carolina, regardless of who's on the roster. Please
right.
continue.
Yeah, and you're not going to promise him anything. You're going to say, and I think this is what Hubert Davis has done, just like his mentor Roy Williams and his mentor Dean Smith. Um, if you come to Carolina, you will have the opportunity to earn a chance for playing time, and that's all anyone's ever promised. And I think that's what they would say. This, the same thing they would say to Garcia is like, hey, right now they have two real, kind of full time. What you would call post players or bigs with Justin McCoy, kind of a versatile piece who can kind of go back and forth, and it wouldn't hurt to have one more, and they have two scholarships. So I don't see, I just don't get the line of thinking that you wouldn't pursue him, because of roster concerns. Yes, it's a very delicate situation, sure, but at the same time, you have to, Hubert Davis has to do what's in the best interest of the team, and if he thinks going after Dawson Garcia is the best interest of the team, which again I don't see how it's not, then you have to do it. So not to be repetitive, anyway, but just a refresher on Garcia. He was offered a scholarship from Roy Williams 2 years ago. North Carolina was in a good spot from everything we had heard with Garcia. He had a kind of a standout performance at the MBPA camp in Charlottesville in June of 2019. I think he might have been on the same team as Dayron Sharp that year. I'm not 100% sure. But North Carolina talked to him. They were thinking about scheduling a visit. And then, Walker Kessler came to Carolina, loved the visit and committed. And that was kind of the end of the Dawson Garcia recruitment as it related to North Carolina. So he's very familiar with Hubert Davis. Hubert Davis had a lot of conversations with him, and I think his family likes North Carolina. And he played AAU basketball with Kerwin Walton for
Mhm.
D1 Minnesota on the Adidas. It wasn't the 3SSB circuit then, but it is now. But I don't think that should be taken lightly either. Playing with Kerwin Walton again, both of those guys from Minnesota. So it's a situation that's going to play itself out, I think, over the next couple of weeks. And he said that he's open to all options. He's open to staying in the draft. If his workouts go well, he's got a few weeks before he has to pull his name from the draft. He's open to going back to Marquette and trying to run it back and see what Shaka Smart's talking about. And he's open, obviously, by entering the transfer portal to going somewhere else and playing college basketball next year. But again, this is why you keep a scholarship or two open towards the end of the portal, because you never know when a home run, signing might come through the portal.
And I want to hammer home something you said too about how North Carolina's coaching staff, from all the way back to Dean Smith, has said you're not going to promise. They typically don't promise playing time. They promise an opportunity for playing time. And since Garcia has previously been recruited by Roy Williams and assistant Hubert Davis, he has probably likely heard those exact same words,
Yep.
maybe with different players alongside of him. He's likely heard that exact same pitch. Another pitch that you're going to hear, and you've probably heard before, is me talking about Johnny T-shirt. And I keep talking about him. And I'm going to keep recruiting for them because Johnny T-shirt is 5-star caliber. Johnny T-shirt is absolutely top talent. Johnny T-shirt is a take for any roster in America at any point in time. If you need University of North Carolina gear, you go to johnnytshirt.com or you stop by their store on West Franklin Street in Chapel Hill. There's a lot of A lot of these recruits and guys are coming through with their families. They're probably ending up at Johnny T-shirt. You're stopping in Chapel Hill. If you've got a rising freshman, you're going to go move them into their dorm. You're going to go buy Johnny T-shirt. You got to get that shirt that says Carolina Mom or Carolina Dad or Carolina Neighbor, whatever it is. They got all that stuff. Johnny T-shirt, best prices you're going to find. And as we talked about earlier, if you're an Inside Carolina premium subscriber, take that extra 10 off the top. You're going to appreciate it, and you're going to be glad you did. So we appreciate Johnny T-shirt. Hope you will appreciate them too. Take a quick break. Let the national guys drop some advertisements in here for a second, and then we'll come right back and talk a little bit more about guys that are going to be on campus very soon. And guess what? They're finally going to re-rank these players. We've been talking about it forever. So stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks for sticking around, everybody. You're listening to the Coast to Coast podcast. I'm Joey Powell, just simply your host, tour guide, concierge for this great informational podcast about University of North Carolina basketball recruiting here on InsideCarolina.com. With me, as always, Sean Moran, Sherelle McMillan. And Sherelle, you dropped some news again on the premium message boards about two guys that are going to be dropping into Chapel Hill, maybe going by Johnny T-shirt in the next couple of days. Gigi Jackson, who just popped on the UNC radar recently, officially, and then Robert Dillingham. What can you say about, or what can we expect from those guys coming to town this week?
They are North Carolina's only two offers in the 2023 class. So I think that says a lot that they were able to get both of them on campus fairly early. And then they are both, top 20-ish players. I think Jackson kind of depends on what service that you're looking at. And then Dillingham is top 10, pretty much by everybody. So these are what we would call elite players. And you'd imagine that they will play pickup with the team, if they're around and do kind of a tour. So these will be very much like official visits. They would just be kind of a full day thing, I would imagine. For Jackson, it's his first time being on campus. And as we said, him and his dad grew up kind of in a Carolina household. Both were big fans. We do not expect any significant news to come out of that visit. I think a lot of people were drawing parallels to the Dayron Sharp recruitment and commitment because it kind of happened at the same time and the visit was around the same time. But we do not expect that. Not to say that it won't happen, but it's not expected at all. But just a really good job for Hubert Davis to get both of them on campus. Jackson has taken a lot of unofficial visits because I think he doesn't want to go make this recruiting process too long. Not saying it's going to end anytime soon, but he's already been to Virginia Tech. He's already been to Wake Forest. He's already been to NC State and Duke. Obviously, South Carolina is home, so he's been there. And then he's going to Clemson the day after his UNC visit, or scheduled to go to Clemson the day after his UNC visit. And also talking about going to Georgetown as well. So he's just getting out, seeing schools. Again, this will be his first time on UNC's campus. So we'll see what happens from there. But just big for Hubert Davis to get those two on campus so early.
It's actually refreshing to hear about kids with that sort of pedigree taking all their visits. I mean, maybe I'm just old school that way, but it's actually kind of cool to hear them. And again, these are unofficials that are going on for UNC on Tuesday, but it's actually kind of cool to hear that those kids are going around and seeing all those different opportunities and are really kind of immersing themselves in the process. Really quickly, I want to hit the vitals for those two guys. If my internet will hurry up, I can actually throw those up. If anybody's got their profiles up right now and want to list them,
Well,
Robert Dillingham.
I will tell you, Gigi Jackson's mother is very specific about his height. And she said, make sure you say that my son is 6'9.5", not 6'9", not 6'10". So Gigi Jackson is 6'9.5".
Gigi's mom is named what?
I'm not sure her first name, actually.
Gigi's mama, 6'9.5", 210 from Columbia, South Carolina. All right, 6'9.5". Y'all hear us? Make sure we get that right on the records. We can't have a recruit's mom mad at us. And Robert Dillingham out of Charlotte, 6 foot even, 160-pound point guard. He plays with Team Charlotte on the Under Armour circuit. All right, guys, we have talked about this ad nauseum on the show for the last few weeks about when are these guys going to get re-ranked? When are they going to get re-ranked? And it's been a bit of an ordeal for how 24/7 is going to do it. From what I understand, it's just been not seeing guys and having anything to go off because not everyone had seasons last year because of COVID. So it was kind of an apples to oranges scenario. And now that we've seen some of these players coming back, We do expect them to re-rank this week. Sean, Sherelle, either one of you have an insight as to how this process is going or is gone? Am I correct at also saying that it's going to happen this week?
Yeah, so Ben confirmed that on IC. Also, we should probably tease, not tease, but let you know we're having a Ask Me Anything or chat with Eric
An old
Bossy.
AMA.
Yeah, AMA, yeah, with Eric Bossy, who's the 24/7 Sports National Director of Recruiting. That will be on July 1st at 12 p.m., 11 a.m. Central, which is his time. So do stop by. He's going to be talking about the rankings, talking about Carolina's target. So great opportunity to hear from someone who has a national perspective on things. As far as how they're doing it, so the 24/7 national team is Jay Meyer, is Travis Branham, is Deshaun London, Brandon Jenkins, and Eric Bossy. And I think typically the way they used to do them under kind of the old staff was they would all just have conversations and just kind of yell at each other until they got to something that they all could agree on. Now, I'm not 100% sure if they're going to do it the same way, but that's the way it's been done in the past. And, really, it's just about they, like you said, they wanted to see these kids. They obviously could have done something in March or April or whatever it was, just to say, hey, we've updated our rankings. But I think they really wanted to get through the live periods and see everybody, not only with their AU team back in the spring, but also with their high school team here over the summer or these last 2 weekends in June, and then use that as a springboard for new rankings as they head into the July eval periods, which I assume there will be some more movement, into August and September. So that's kind of what the timeline looks like in the process. So all those guys collaborate. They all have specific regions that they cover, and then boom, out come the rankings.
All right, Sean, anything you want to add there about? Did Sherelle put that in nice enough of a package for us?
You did. Nothing to add, just that rankings are always a lot more difficult than people, think they are, especially once you start getting outside of the top 25, 30 guys, especially as given the lack of familiarity, with this class. But definitely excited to see where everybody lands up, and I'm sure that will also change tremendously once the 3 July live periods occur. But will be good to be going off some, at least refreshed rankings.
So here's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to list out current rankings of UNC involved players, and I'm going to list what their most recent 24/7 ranking was. And then I want you guys to say, what do you think it's going to be after the re-ranking comes out this week? If you'd like to give some editorializing behind that, feel free. Any anecdotes, whatever. But I'm going to write these down, and we're going to go back and check on them later to see how close you guys were. And maybe, maybe whoever wins between the two of you, I'll see if I can't work out some sort of wager.
Can we get some Jimmy's seafood? I saw Sherelle was tweeting about it this week. So
what do you know about Jimmy C? As a matter of fact, Sean, you are in California. They do ship to California, and you can get it quickly. Sherelle, anything there? You just want to keep the crab goodness for yourself?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything else. Yes, Jimmy's. That's it. That's
that's the tweet.
I hate I can't stand that. Like that's it. That's the tweet. Yes, Jimmy's.
Man, I love it. I love it when I hit Sherelle and all of his angry buttons. All right. First two we're going to go for the UNC commitments that we have so far. We hit the emergency pod this week when Seth Trimble committed. Seth Trimble's most recent ranking. Hang on, pause. I do want to say why this is important to our listeners and our viewers is because a lot of these guys, as we've said, are probably going to move. We think some of the North Carolina guys are probably going to move up. I can't guarantee that, but it's important that you guys remember that. And so as we go, 24/7 ranking most recently is what I'm basing this off of. Seth Trimble, most recent 24/7 ranking 102. Sean, where do you think Seth Trimble's going to end up?
I think so. Right now,
after the next rankings, not saying where he ends up by the time he enrolls, but after the next, after this new set of re-rankings we've been waiting over a year for.
I'm going to go 33.
All right. Sherelle?
I'm going to go 39.
All right. So 33, 39. Next one, Will Shaver. Kid committed a little ways back, I think right around the 1st of June, maybe. Does that sound right? 1st of June?
A little
Second.
earlier in May.
A little earlier
June.
in May. His
No,
his
no,
visit was
No, sorry, that was his
He-
commit. Yeah.
Yeah, he committed June 2nd.
yeah,
Yeah.
his okay, yeah, because he committed right around the time of his visit.
Mhm.
All right. Will Shaver, currently 162 in the 24/7 most recent rankings. 162. Sean?
I'm gonna go with 88.
Sherelle?
96.
96, which again, top 100 kids are impactful players in college. I think it's important for folks to remember that.
And I say that, again, that's a 70, 70 spot bump. But I say that just, I think he still hasn't been seen by a ton of people.
Sure.
And that's going to impact him a little bit. Like, Travis saw him, I think it was in, I forget where, but Travis saw him, but I don't know if the rest of the staff has. And so they're relying still on some of the tape from the AU events in the spring and all that. So that could change, especially if he has a big July. But I think right now they see the skill set, and I think he slots into the top 100. But I think there will probably be some hesitation to put him up any farther until they really, put eyes on him. And again, I'm speaking for them, even though I don't know what they're
Sure.
thinking. This is just what I think they're thinking.
And again, his recruitment was one that, bloomed late because he bloomed late. And I think that this would kind of continue that trend. As Sherelle said, not everybody has seen him in order to appropriately rank him. All right. Some other guys that have offers that are of interest to North Carolina and have visited or are in the process of scheduling visits. Whitmore came in. What's his first name?
Yeah.
Cam Whitmore. Yeah, all right. Thanks, Joey. Cam Whitmore, 109 in the most recent ones. I guess he was the most recent or next to most recent offer in this class. That sound right?
Yeah, him and Tyler Nickel.
Yeah, Nickel was.
Yep.
We'll get to Nickel in a second, but yeah. So
Yep.
Cam Whitmore, 109. How you guys feel about him, Sean?
Well, I don't know. Currently, he's on the front. This is Sunday night. He's currently on the front page of 24/7 for having blown up at the DC event. And so, with that could bump him up even more. But I'm going to have to increase what I was thinking before today. But I'm going to go into the. This is a tough one. I'm going to go 30. Actually, I'm going to go 31.
Ooh, that's high four category. That's high four territory, is it not?
It is, and I guess I'm a little. The article today kind of made me change where I had him slotted. So it was I was probably going to go more in the 50s and 60s, but I think the article today is making me increase that.
All right, Sherelle, how you feeling about Cam Whitmore?
22.
Woo, that's 5-star territory.
Yeah.
Man, Sherelle loves that. Loves the 6'9" with athlete. Wait, he's 6'7" or 6'9"?
He's like 6'6", right?
God, do I know anything?
He's listed it. I mean, but to be fair, like all these heights, nobody's really sure of, like, because everybody's self-reporting. So sometimes they self-report at 6'8", and sometimes they self-report at 6'5". So just
he is 6 something.
Yeah, just call it 6'6", 6'7". Yeah,
all right.
I think that's fair.
Could I ask a quick question?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It depends. Are you going to do better than I am? Because I'm doing terrible right now.
Sherelle, you got to see Whitmore in person at the CP3 Memorial Day tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think he was a 5-star then, or what were your thoughts coming out of?
Yeah, I probably thought, I was like, okay, he's much better than 10. I think he said 103, whatever it was. But I think the last 2 weekends playing with his high school team changed the perception a little bit, because if you had seen him before or read about him before, everything was there. The athleticism, some of the ball handling, the size, the physicality. He's built like a rush in, like a defensive end for Jay Bateman or whatever.
I thought you said a Russian. I'm like, what does Dolph Lundgren have to do with this? What do you
rush in?
Ivan Koloff on the wing. All right, go ahead.
But the only question was, can he shoot? Because at that size, he probably was going to have to play some three. And, he went 9 for 13, I think, in those first 2 games that Hubert Davis and the staff saw. So between, the shooting question being answered and then him playing as well as he did against good competition, I think he has the kind of prerequisites that, require a major bump, because again, he has the size, he has the athleticism, and now he has the shooting to add to it. And he has the breakout performances in front of scouts and coaches. So that's why I think he's going to have a huge jump.
That is an absolute rocket being strapped to that young man if he does end up at 22, as Sherelle said. All right, next name, we just mentioned him a second ago, Tyler Nickel, currently sitting at 88. Sean, how do you feel about Nickel?
I think I'm going to go with I think 50-55.
Sherelle?
I was gonna say like 64 or 65. Let's
I
just
mean,
call it
double,
six.
double nickel for a kid named Nickel sounds better, but
Let's call it 64.
all right,
64.
64.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna laugh if one of you guys gives like a prospect the same number. Um, all right, we talked about him earlier. Ike Trout. How you feeling? He's gonna measure out. Sean?
I think he's going to stay in the same ballpark. I'm going to go 48.
Sherelle?
Yeah, I think top four, right? So I'll just say 40, because I think that's a pretty good place to be slotted. And then that is a ranking that's pending being seen more and how he plays in July. I think he has the tools to be someone who moves higher if he has big performances in July. But based upon what he's done already, and then kind of projecting forward, I think top 40 is a really good slot for him.
Well, either one of those for Mr. Trout would require a gaff. Jalen Washington at 22 right now. Sean, where do you see him?
I'm going to go with one of a favorite number, 23.
Oh, you got him dropping one. That's the first time we've dropped anybody. All right. I see you
Well, I
working.
mean,
Well,
look,
somebody's got to drop, right? Not everybody
yeah.
can move
I
up.
mean,
I get
you're
it.
going to have Lively and others jumping up, and I think he's definitely shown that he's kind of that low 5-star. He's definitely shown how talented he is. Once again, I think where he's at right now, there's going to be people jumping ahead of him, but it's not due to any how he's played, because he's played very well. But yeah, I'm going to just keep him in that range, but go with number 23.
I think it's important that you phrase that too. It's not any player that moves down. It has nothing to do with
Well,
some players. Some players may have been overvalued, but most of
yeah.
this is going to be due to better exposure for the guys that are rising up. Sherelle, your teammate there said 23. How you feeling about Jalen Washington, formerly at 22?
I was gonna say 28.
28. All
Yeah.
right. Again, still in that like 5-star or very high 4-star borderline.
To me, that is if you're UNC, if you can live there, that's where you
That's
live.
your
I mean,
yep.
that is Armando Bacot, Marcus Page, Joel Berry. I'm trying to think who else was in that range, but that is the type of player who Sean has said usually has one or two kind of deficiencies. I hate to call them that, but deficiencies that keep them from being an early entrant into the NBA
Room for
draft.
growth.
Room for growth, growth opportunity after a year or two. That's usually the kind of player in that range. Tony Bradley probably is one of the few examples, I think,
Yep.
of someone slotted around 26. But that's where you want to live if you're Carolina. If you can get guys 25 to 40 kind of in that range, and use that to supplement some of the guys that you might sign from the bottom half of the top 100 or the top half of the top 100. I'm not sure how it goes.
Either way,
Anyway, yeah, either way, I think that's a perfect spot.
that's again great context. All right, last one we're going to look at tonight. Derek Lively, massive human, currently sitting at 44. Sean, you going to put him at -3? Where are you going to put him? I know you're strapping a rocket to him as well.
Well, I mean, this one's kind of cheating, because I think Bossy already said he had him top 5, and it wasn't number 5. I don't think he's going ahead of Bates or Jalen Duren. So I'm going to go number 3 with him, which I think is high, just because I think there's still, I think that ranking is going to be pure upside ranking versus the few games I was able to watch this spring. Once again, a lot can transpire from the spring to where we're at now, but his offensive game still needed some fine tuning. But I'm going to go number 3, and that's going to be a pure upside play for the rankings, in my opinion.
Sherelle, last one. He said 44-3. What do
I
you
mean,
got?
to Sean's point, it's kind of been given away a little bit already. So I guess I'll just go 4 since he said
Just
top
for some
5.
spice. I'm with you.
Said top 5 and not 5. So the next one is 4. So I'll just go 4.
I'll tell you what, we'll do this. For any of our listeners or viewers, if you have something you would like to see be awarded to the winner of number of perfect picks, or who did the best on this re-ranking guesstimate game that we did here, shoot me an email, joey@insidecarolina.com. We'll figure out a way to reward our two panelists here for all of their knowledge. But Appreciate you guys humoring me there, and I think that it's going to be fun to watch over the next little bit as to how the re-rankings settle, as you guys have said, as more eyes of the evaluators and the analysts see these players. It's going to be neat to see how they land. And of course, again, it's going to be important to North Carolina fans and people that follow the UNC basketball program to see how it affects guys that are in UNC's orbit right now. All right, guys. Before I shut out the lights and shut the bar down for the evening, anything else you want to add, Sherelle?
Yeah, I would say I think things for some wood over here, I would knock on it, but things should begin to slow down. I would say after Tuesday. Typically, the coaches take vacation, during the fourth to gear up for the July evaluation period. So I would think that things will slow down and there'll be a chance for everyone to kind of catch their breath as we get ready for July. So just thinking about that, the open evaluation period starts July 8th. We will be in a couple of places down in Georgia, but there's Under Armour events, there's Adidas events, and then the Nike teams aren't playing. There's not a Nike event that week. So the Nike teams are kind of spread out. So it's going to be a chance for the coaches to really show who is on the radar and who's a priority, because they're not going to be able to just be in one gym and watch everybody. Some Nike teams are in Alabama and some Nike teams are in New York. So they're going to have to really prioritize, and maybe that will be kind of a tell about who they really really want, or who they're really really into. And then the other thing I would add is that we talked about Jalen Washington. We didn't really get into his recruitment much, but so he has already officially visited UNC and officially visited Stanford. He took an unofficial visit to Marquette this past Wednesday, and he's scheduled to be at Purdue today, which would be Monday. He's scheduled to have an unofficial visit there. And what he said in the past is that it would kind of be just a feeling on when he decided to make a commitment. Whether or not he gets that feeling at some point soon, we're not sure. And then over the weekend, he did say that he was thinking about possibly taking more unofficial visits in July if it worked out with his schedule. But that's just one that it could go on, through November, but that's one that we probably should keep an eye on. It could in the next couple of weeks if he takes those visits and then decides that he's ready to make a commitment. So just that's probably one of the recruitments that feels like it's getting close to the end. It might not be, but it kind of feels like it.
All right. Good insight there, Sean. Two pennies before we go.
Don't know if I have two. I think for the Dawson Garcia, I might just be a little more pessimistic in regards to the fit, just given that he played 30 minutes a game as a freshman. Not to say that from a talent perspective he wouldn't fit, because he definitely would, but ideally with Armando, would love to see him get a big boost in minutes up to the 28, 30 minutes. And Manic's been starting basically his Oklahoma career. So I think, how do those minutes play is the big question mark. So once again, there's still a lot to go, whether it's the NBA or Marquette or transfer portal, but that's still where I'm trying to, get my head past in terms of, does he really want to decrease his minutes coming from what he got last year?
Appreciate you taking a look at that. And, I don't think anybody's going to dog you for being pessimistic here. There are a lot of variables at play with that particular player and how he might or might not fit with North Carolina. So levity is welcome. We're not going to bash you for it. But I am going to get out of here. I'm going to turn out the lights. Appreciate you guys joining us as always. Remember, folks, listening and viewing, rate, subscribe, review, all of that. It really helps us. This is as impassioned of a plea as you can get from me without me reaching through the screen and doing the whole Dusty Rhodes Hard Times promo. Put your hand right here where my hand is. Reach out and touch somebody. Look, y'all, we appreciate you listening. Appreciate you watching. I'm thankful for Sherelle and Sean joining us as always, bringing the news, bringing the information, and the stuff that you guys expect from us at InsideCarolina.com. Be sure to be on the lookout for all the news as it comes. If you're not a premium subscriber, you're missing out. You might want to take care of that. But we appreciate you joining us. We will catch you guys next time. Thanks to John Sigley for producing. Thanks to Johnny T-Shirt for sponsoring. For Sherelle McMillan, for Sean Moran, I'm just Joey Powell. We'll talk to you guys down the road. Late.